Well, hello, General Hospital Daily Recap fans. Today's Daily Recap is for Friday, April the 4th, 2025. Friday, April the 4th. Well, guess what? Jocelyn does Diamond Vaughn, okay? And she says exactly what she saw, that he accepted some package from the woman. And so she says and she didn't think nothing of it until Jack mentioned that, because Vaughn said he wanted to get back in the field after training Jocelyn. And Jack said, no, you're going to be doing field work after the fiasco on your last assignment or whatever. So Jocelyn looked and then she goes, Agent Brennan, there's something I have to tell you. So she recounts everything from when he stood up, he zipped up his jacket, and she said when she walked in, she noticed he was talking to a woman. And then he just stood up to go get him some pastries. He zipped up his sweatsuit. He walked over to get the pastries. And she goes, and when he zipped up the sweatsuit, that was probably a signal to her. Okay, Joss. And then she goes, and then, oh, he happens to drop the pastries. So when she bends down, they both bend down to pick them up. She slips him a packet, small packet of some sort. And she says, and I just needed to make sure you knew about the incident. And he's like, Jax, that is absolutely not true. You misread the situation. And so Brennan looked and he goes, okay, Jax, that look, you making this accusation against a senior agent can be very serious. uh he could either lose his job or you could lose yours. So maybe you missaw what you saw. I'm going to give you an opportunity to change your story. And so she goes, no. And so then Yvonne walked around and says, yeah, you absolutely didn't see that. I zipped up my jacket because I was cold. And yes, I dropped the pastries. She never bent down to get those pastries. And Jocelyn said, as soon as she passed him the packet, she left. And so he goes, and perhaps she left because she was done with her coffee. But that's all that happened. So Jack looked at her and he looked at him and he says, are you sure? Because this is serious. Maybe you misread the situation. She said, I did not. So then they walk around. They both, she goes, oh, as a matter of fact, the packet that he picked up, that she passed to him, he put right there in his right pocket. That's where I saw him put it. So Brennan looked at Vaughn and he goes, empty your pocket. And he looks at Brennan. So he empties his pocket and there's the blue packet. It's a pack of gum. Jack opens it up. It has um little bitty SD, little bitty disc, the kind that come out of cameras and things. You could put files on that too, right? And Jack says, well, what have we here? And Vaughn looked at him, and Jocelyn looked at him, and he goes, it's not what it looks like. So then he walks around to the other side of Brennan, and Brennan goes, it's definitely not what it looks like, Jax, because you just passed. She said, wait, what? And they both are smiling. You passed. You're done. You passed the test. So she goes, so this was all a test? My thing is, how did they know she was going to go to that coffee house? Well, come on. That was a little up in the air. It's not like somebody sent her for a coffee run. So anyway, she said, so what part did I pass on? Well, observing what? And so Brennan said all of it. He said, but for the most important part that you passed on is you were not afraid to give a report or report a fellow WSB agent. You still kept to the code of protecting the Bureau. He says that's where you pass the most on. Everything else, good, but that's where you pass the most on. And so he says, um, so congratulations, Jax. I hope you're ready because there is an assignment in the field that you are perfect for. And she looked. So now, mind you, Jason comes over to Carly's and then he apologizes and he tells her, I won't be on you about Jack anymore. And then Carly's talking, they had a heart to heart. She mainly said, look, you know, I will not let anybody tell me who I can and cannot see. Not even you. She says, you've never done that to me before. And he explained about the whole Sunny situation and everything else. But come on now. She got involved with Lorenzo Alcazar and all that. But anyway, he says, but Carly, it's your life. And I don't want this to come between us. And she goes, and I don't want you to either. He says, another reason I'm backing off is because if I did pressure you enough for you to stop seeing Jack, he said, you'll resent me. And she said, yes, I would. At some point, I would definitely resent you that you feel you could control me like that. She goes, yes, I have meddled into your business, your personal relationships, but I could never control you, Jason. Right? I may have fought like hell, to get rid of somebody that I didn't feel, was worthy of you. But I could not control you. And so she says, so I ultimately, if I let you control me, I would resent you later. So they hugged it out. And as they're hugging, Jocelyn comes around the corner. Mom? And she looks and it's Jocelyn, and Jocelyn is smiling, looking really happy to be home. So what that tells me, everybody, is Jocelyn's assignment is in Port Charles. And somebody said on Comment Corner that it probably is going to have something to do with Emma Scorpio Drake. And I'm inclined to agree. Somebody said maybe Emma is a WSB agent. I don't think so. I think somehow Emma got caught up on the wrong people. I really do. Or if she is an agent or an ex-agent, well, Brennan would know about it. Although maybe he does know about it. I don't know. But I feel she's there to investigate Emma. So anyway, Vaughn was walking out of the training room with Jack, and he goes, Do you think Jax is ready? Agent Jax is ready? And Brennan said, she better be. Because this assignment is time sensitive. So that's why I'm sending you to be Agent Jax's backup. And Vaughn looked at him like, God, did I gotta babysit? So he's gonna come to Port Charles. And maybe they're gonna have the cover story is they met where she was supposed to be all this time. Who knows? We have Christina. Oh, she's in the chapel. Please, 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 God, please. I know I've asked a lot. I messed up. Oh my, I messed up. I did. Oh my, I did a really bad thing. I know I did. I know it. But please don't let Molly's father die. Don't let Molly's father die. And so Molly and Alexis were walking in as she's saying, don't let Molly's father die. And Molly goes, Christina. And she looks and she sees her and Alexis. She goes, oh, oh, and she jumps up. She goes, how much did you hear? She goes, I was just saying a prayer for your father. Molly said, I know, I heard you. And so, they end up hugging, or she's like, how is your father? And Alexis says he just got out of surgery and he's going to make a full recovery, but it's going to take some time. And Christina's like, oh, that's good. That's good. So, we get back to, the Davis girls are supporting each other. And Alexis is like, it does my heart so, so glad to see you two together because they both were lighting candles. And Christina's she's still all jittery, kind of shaky in the face, like, yeah, yeah. So then we have Lucky spending time with Elizabeth, right? Elizabeth had to have surgery on her leg, and she actually needs to go to a rehab facility because of the breaks in her leg, and she needs time to mend. 3 months, 3 to 6 months. And she was telling Lucky 3, because I'm a fast healer. And he looked, he goes, Elizabeth, you have stairs at your house. You might want to consider, you know, where can you get the help, getting the care that you need. And so she goes, Isaiah did mention a rehab facility, but I don't know. And he goes, you say you want to heal fast, then you are going to need to do whatever you're told, and you are going to need to listen to somebody. So to me, it does sound like a good thing if you're in a rehab. So Ava so shows back up at the hospital, and she begs Dr. Gannon, can she first, she asks about Rick, and he goes, I can't give you any patient information. You will have to talk to his daughter. So she goes, okay, but can I see him? Can I just visit him? I know nobody's in there. He goes, well, the family is not in there right now. He says, but I'll tell you what, you can go in and see him briefly, but I suggest you be out of there before his family gets back. She goes, I'll be quick. So she goes in. She's apologizing to Rick for the last words to be an argument. Because remember, she was arguing, yelling at him because of Elizabeth. And so she goes, if you just wake up, I don't want to leave it like this. So anyway, she goes, but I've been here for a while and I don't want to wear out my visit. So she goes, I'm going to go ahead and leave. And then Rick wakes up, groggy, but he wakes up. And he goes, first thing he says, looks at Ava, Elizabeth. And he's trying to sit up. And she goes, Elizabeth is fine. You were the main one people were worried about. You have more serious injuries, but Elizabeth is okay. So you're like, okay, okay. So then she goes, what happened? You lost control of your car? And he's laying there and he goes, the brakes wouldn't work. And then he's getting a little droggy and she goes, I'm going to go get the doctor. I'm going to go get Dr. Gannon. So she runs out. She goes, Dr. Gannon, Dr. Gannon. He's awake. Rick is awake. So Dr. Gannon rushes in and Ava's still outside Rick's door. And Alexis, Molly, and Christina get off the elevator and they see Ava. And so Alexis says, what are you doing back here? And she looks at Molly. Your father's awake. Your father's awake. The doctor's with him right now. Go ahead and go. So that, takes the questioning off of her. So Christina looks at Ava and she goes, I can't be here right now. I just can't be here. So Christina takes off. And Alexis says, see, Ava, I told you to stay away for my daughters or for my daughter. She goes, look, Alexis, I left yesterday out of respect for the family, but the hospital is a public place. And whether you all like it or not, Rick and I are very good friends, very close friends. So I just wanted to make sure he was okay. And when she said the hospital's a public place, but here's the deal, Alexis. When people are in recovery slash ICU, because that really should be ICU, um, no, there's usually the list for visiting is family only until they get stronger. Okay. Until they get stronger. Or unless he wakes up enough and says, I want to see Ava. Okay. Just like Michael was burning in intense pain and could barely speak. And what did he say? Sasha, I want to see Sasha. Okay. So anyway, she goes, Christina, you can be nowhere near my daughter, Christina. So you leave because she is Molly's sister and Molly needs her sister right now. So Ava's like, fine, I'll leave. So she leaves. She goes over to it's, I want to say impound slash wrecking yard, you know. She goes over, she goes, I want to inquire about my car. It was really Rick's car, but she said she knew if she would have said my friend's car, they wouldn't have gave her no information. She goes, my car. It was in an accident, yesterday. She may have even said the route it was on. She goes, and I need to either get some pictures of the car. I need to check out the car. I need information on the car so I can file an insurance claim. And he looked at her. He goes, well, that car is scheduled to be uh compacted. And so she goes, well, can you do me a favor? Can you go and just give it a quick, just a once over, and let me know if there were any manufacturer defects? Okay, because I'll make somebody pay, right? So he goes, sure. So he goes and he comes back and he tells her, she goes, okay, did you find anything? And he looked at her, he goes, yeah, the brake line was cut on the car. And Ava just looked. Now, Rick's in there talking, he's talking to Molly, and Alexis came in, and Molly warned the two, look, I don't want to hear not one argument from you two. And Alexa's like, no, no, absolutely not. No, you know. And so she says, what happened, Dad? And he's laying there and he goes, she goes, you drove your car off the road? And so he goes, Ava said, do you, not Ava, Alexis says, do you remember anything, Rick? And he's like, my head is foggy and I don't remember everything. And Molly said, okay, that's because you just came out of surgery, you had a concussion, because he didn't tell them the brakes were cut because he remembered he mumbled it to Ava, but then he didn't remember that detail to tell Molly. But then he had a flashback. He remembered his head lifting off the steering wheel and he saw Christina through the windshield. And then his head went back down on the steering wheel and he lost consciousness. Yeah, there she is. There she is. At the scene of her crime, checking out the situation. Mm-hmm. Yep, and I'm happy he saw her. I just don't know how he's going to handle that information when he's well enough to handle it. Okay. But I'm going to tell you this, everybody. Me personally, I want Christina to pay. I want her to. So Christina texts Lucky Where are you? I need to speak with you now. So he goes, and I guess they're in the chapel. And so she's like, um, okay, does anybody does anybody know what I did? And he's like, not that I know of. She says, and you aren't gonna tell anybody what happened, are you? And he looked at her and he says, that all depends. I want to know how you could hurt Elizabeth. Yeah, chick. I want to know that. Mm, yep. And she just looked at him. Uh-huh. No, she should not get off easy. She should not get off at all. One little bit. One little bit. And then we have Curtis and Drew arguing. I'm so sick of them too, right? But Drew really gets nowhere with Curtis. He was just saying, don't deny Kai this opportunity. He says, Drew, I'm not denying Kai anything. I just told him he needs to check out and vet the situation. And Drew says, I told him the same thing. And so he goes, yeah, but Drew, talking to you right now, see, because I know the risk Kai can take. And I know what kind of decision he's about to make. He needs to have all the information he can. Well, I told him to do his research. He's going to do his, he says, yeah, but see, you're dangling something he really, really wants in front of him. I'm telling him proceed with caution, get the information. Because if God forbid something goes wrong and he ends up in a wheelchair, this needs to be a decision he didn't make in haste. And so Drew says, yeah, but his decision, it's time sensitive. The closer to the injury of having the operation, the closer the chances of success are. He goes, and I understand that too. Then why are you trying to block it? You're only trying to do this because it's my idea. I brought it to him. He said, no. Again, I'm not telling Kai what to do, and I'm not blocking him. I'm just leading him to the avenues to get information. And that's it. So Jordan comes in. Okay, Lucy comes up, and I'm telling you, everybody, I've always hated the nurses' ball. It's a waste of space for me, especially last year. God awful. So Lucy comes up to Jordan at the hospital and says, no, no, no. She was at the hospital. And she says, oh, good, great, 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 Deputy Mayor. After 10 phone calls to the mayor's office, I finally got a hold of the mayor regarding the nurses' ball, and she volunteered you. And Jordan looked at her. Now, see, remember what I thought Jordan was supposed to be cozying up to Sidwell, right? So Jordan says, wait, what? She goes, yeah, she says you're going to be the liaison for the mayor's office. So here's a whole list for you, 2 pages, a whole bunch of names. I need you to call every one of these people and get their commitment to participate in Nurses Ball. And Jordan looks, she goes, wait, all of these names? She goes, all of them. We need to make sure they're committed. So she goes, oh, so you don't want me to just call. You want me to, she goes, convince them to get involved. And I thought, no, I'm the deputy mayor of this city. I don't have time to help you coordinate your hot mess of a nurse's ball. In the real world, she wouldn't have time for that. Nor would she do it. Now, the mayor's office might attend the nurse's ball. They may have an opportunity to give the name. Mayor Collins is in the audience, right? But my deputy assistant with the crime in Port Charles and everything else going on, heck no. Heck no. So anyway, Jordan pretty much got dumped on her. So she goes to Aurora, and Drew and Curtis were still there arguing. And she goes, "Do you guys need a referee?" And Drew looks, he goes, "I'm leaving." He goes, "No, I'm done. I'm leaving." So she goes, "Well, not just yet." And he looks, he goes, "Because what I'm here affects both of you or concerns both of you." And they looked, and she goes, "It's about the nurses' ball. I have been deemed liaison, and I'm sitting here to you. Both of your names are on this list to participate in the nurses' ball." So Drew says, "Absolutely, I will give a sizable donation to the nurses' ball." And Drew says, "Oh, and I will definitely be donating. I'll happily sponsor the nurses' ball. Give a sponsorship to the nurses' ball." So she goes, "Well, that's it. That's not what we want." She goes, "Because the nurses' ball is being fully sponsored by Jen Sidwell." And Drew looks like, "Wait, what?" Hmm? He goes, "Well, you know what? This is for a good cause, and I'm all for helping a good cause. I will participate." And he walks out. So Curtis looks, she goes, "What about you, Curtis?" And he looks at Jordan and he says, "You know what, Jordan? I see exactly what you do. You knew. That's why you got the commitment right now from Drew first. You knew if he made a commitment that I was not going to let him outdo me." And she goes, "Welcome to the world of politics." That was kind of funny. That was actually a little bit funny to me. Welcome to the world of politics for that. And then we had minor conversation with it wasn't minor, but I fast forwarded it, so it was like that was minor to me. Trina and Drew back and forth about, the surgeries. Be careful, it's brand new. Same old thing. And he goes, "That's why I'm having your mother look into it and blah blah blah, but this could be an opportunity." So she was just trying to get him to see, why would Drew do this for you? He just met you. Something has to be in it for him. That's what she was trying to get him to see, which it is. We just don't know what it is. We honestly just don't know. So that was it, everybody. That was it for Nothing Special. No Cliffhanger Friday. Jocelyn Jackson's back. So she should be behind in her schoolwork right about now, shouldn't she? I would say she is, you know. Okay, so now for comment corner, I'm gonna scroll halfway down, or what I perceive as halfway down, comment corner, and I'm gonna go, yeah, that looks like that's about halfway. I'm gonna go to as far as I can go for 7 minutes. So down, I'm going to scroll down to the middle, stop, and I'm going to read the comments down. So I'm going to set my trusty dusty stopwatch, and we are going to go. Okay, Lashunta says, "I just don't trust Sidwell. Did you hear Natalia say polonium? Wasn't that that's what Valentine poisoned Carly with? Marco got an agenda about Lucas, and it isn't an accident either. Now he gonna bring Sidwell into Diane's law firm. If Sidwell wanted peace with Sonny, why take over everything Sonny's got? He said Natalia's they said Natalia's son was a musician. That DA lady never wins a case. Never wins a case. Answer, she's out for Anna through Emma, or she's out for Emma through it. Yeah, she is. Natalia, it's Sly says Natalia says plutonium and uranium, not polonium. Woo, those were a mouthful of words. Thank you so much, Sly. Lashunta said, "Stupid Brad. I was fine with him getting Portia because he did nothing. But giving her leverage to Selena was foul. He still tried to use it, shaking my head. Now Drew's got it. I don't feel sorry for her because tell Curtis. Kai's dumb too because Drew's gonna use him. Didn't he say he makes his own decisions? Drew deserves to lose everything. He almost did in jail, but he so giddy about Portia going. Yeah, he is. Natalia shaking my head. I don't understand why she wouldn't give Sonny a heads up and that deception crew. I know it makes no sense. So she's not loyal to them one little bit. And then Wendy says, Brad always been foul and not to be trusted. Yep. Care Bear says Natalia apparently betrayed her family. Did she cheat on her husband and get pregnant with Blaze? Look, wouldn't that be interesting? Or is she Sidwell's daughter? Wouldn't that isn't that crazy? Sidwell's daughter would have been dating Sonny's daughter. Does Sidwell not forgive his ex's homophobia towards his children? Uh, what's cer- what's certain is that he seems to be an abusive man, who's best to be avoided. Yep, I think so too. Who's best avoided? DM trailer says I don't think the writers change Marco's storyline because both Blaze and Natalia said that her son was uh, out of her life because he did not want to play the drums. Is that what happened? He didn't like Natalia managing his career. Lin Wan says, I think Portia is going to say Drew has cancer. That would be interesting. Or some kind of illness to try to get him off her back, which is another illegal thing, right? Which is so stupid because she would be just adding to her crimes instead of just going to her husband and telling him the truth. What kind of marriage is this? If you keep things so big from your husband, I really don't know how this marriage has lasted this long. Since uh, since this mess she kept for 20 years, that crime that came out at her on her wedding day, and it's still going on. She says she wouldn't do this anymore. I guess she lied. Yep, that's what Portia does. She lie, tear. Oh, Curtis, Curtis. Wendy says he won't believe her anyway. Well, oh, that she's no, he'll believe if she tells him the truth. He'll know she lied, and that this is finally the truth. And why couldn't you trust me enough to tell me the truth? I mean, come on now. Aisha said Sidwell doesn't know that Laura filed or filled Sonny in on his workings with Drew. No, he doesn't. To get the government to take possession of Sonny's peers using eminent domain, also known as compulsory acquisitions for public use. Sidwell may not be the one who personally ordered the contract killer to firebomb Sonny's penthouse, but I'm convinced he's connected to the one who did. And then Richard says, agreed. Bridgetta says, no, Georgetta says, so Sonny owns uh, Town Piers. I think Sonny owns the buildings that are Pier 20, that Pier 55 goes on to. So probably, yeah, that walkway on the pier might be his, you know? And I kind of like private, even though public uses it, but it might be his. Aisha says to Georgetta, many references have been made to Sonny's extensive waterfront property. Yep. But I don't know exactly how many piers Sonny owns. He owns Pier 55, the one Drew wanted the government to take. Yeah, I know that. And then Care Bear says, is this really a coincidence? Marco is definitely going to work with Alexis. Sidwell knows more about her than he's letting on, and the story of the fingerprints on the dagger is still unresolved. What does Alexis mean to Sidwell? And is the Marco Lucas encounter a coincidence or a trap? Oh, it's a trap. It is definitely a trap. Uh, Pobop says to Care Bear, and if he gets a job at Diane's firm, he will have access to all Sonny's confidential records. That's interesting. Diane should have it locked in her own private files, because Diane is Sonny's lawyer. And on top of that, if Marco gets a job there, Marco ain't gonna now have a third desk. in that cramped little office that Diane and Alexis sit across from each other on. So I don't know how that would work. Carrie, I didn't even know Diane needed somebody else, or is interviewing some, put a job offer out for somebody else, or what do you call it? Unemployment or employment offer out there. Care Bear says it's confirmed. Marco is indeed Sinwell and Natalia's son. Yes, it is. And she seems to have just as strained relationship with her son as she does her daughter. And then P. Merle says, wow, those Sidwells are a piece of work. All lying come cornivores. PC is in for a shakeup. They remind me of the Cassidines, distant relatives, perhaps. I know they do to me too. And then Lori says, I think they are somehow related to the Cassidines. That's how Sidwell was able to buy the island. He seems classy, but depraved like the Cassidines too. Hmm. That's gonna really come out in the works. The Sidwell connection. It's probably what we'll call it, right? The Sidwell connection. All right, everybody, that's it. Now that we're out of sweeps, things have died down, but I think the next sweeps are May. So May sweeps will be coming up. So things will ramp up again, which will be good, finally. But I'll be back tomorrow with another daily recap of General Hospital.